Steve Pagliuca is buying the Connecticut Sun and plans to relocate to Boston. At least that is what was announced. Roz Gold-Onwude. Over the weekend, this news came down and there was a very interesting reaction, a lot of excitement. But then very quickly, Roz, that excitement sort of tempered a bit.
Right.
Because the WNBA put out a pretty swift response to the reporting by Gary Washburn and said, this is a statement from a WNBA spokesperson. I'm just going to read it off my phone because they said a lot. Relocation decisions are made by the WNBA Board of Governors and not by individual teams. And then they started talking about the expansion process, and they noted that Boston hadn't submitted any kind of bid. No groups from Boston applied for a team at that time, and those other cities remain under consideration, you know, based on the other cities who have replied, based on the extensive work they did as part of the expansion process and currently have priority over Boston. And then Celtics prospective owner Bill Chisholm has also reached out to the league office and asked that Boston receive strong consideration for a WNBA franchise at the appropriate time. Mm-hmm. So I was confused, Roz. I felt like these messages were a little conflicting because I know that Gary Washburn is a great reporter, and I wouldn't expect for something like this to be brought and made public like this unless it was close or Steve feels he's gonna get, you know, the approval from the Board of Governors. Now there were more statements made. Steve put out a statement. There's a lot of statements, and he's like, you know, this isn't final. We're gonna comply with the WNBA and the NBA for the process, you know. And then Jen from the Connecticut Sun, she did like a post.
Jen Rosati.
Yes, Jen. I'm sorry. Yes. I'm just shortchanging people's names, like, because I'm talking to you,
President,
but not saying right. Sorry, but she did a presser prior to the Connecticut Sun game with the Liberty, and she basically talked about, you know, the fact that like this is a relocation, should it go through, and not necessarily an expansion, and the process is actually different. They are governed by different guidelines, which I thought was a good thing for her to point out, because I was a little confused when the WNBA brought up expansion, because this would not be expansion. This is a team that would be purchased, and if it's purchased, they want to relocate it to another city, which is different than the bidding process to like try to get an expansion team. So there was just a lot of information coming at us.
Is that actually fact?
Yes, because I mean, I guess for both, the Board of Governors probably has to approve it, but it's just a different thing, because expansion is like you're just bringing a new team, right, whether you're bringing one back or, you know, like Detroit is, or it's a brand new team, but like the Valkyries did, but you're bringing a new team. This is an existing WNBA team, and you're seeking the ability to relocate it. So it is a different thing.
Well, there's a lot to consider here, and you know, considering the conversation around relocation versus expansion, there's also been discussion of a Mark Lasry-led group out of the Milwaukee Bucks kind of family franchise that would like to buy this team and keep it in Connecticut. And therefore,
in Hartford.
Right, and therefore, and also not abandon a fan base that already exists, that already loves UConn hoops, that already like loves their son. And then the WNBA later down the road could still eventually put a team in Boston. So that's something to consider when you're talking about expansion versus relocation.
It is, but I got to tell you, I'm skeptical of the WNBA having a team in Hartford and Boston. I just don't think I don't think they're realistically going to do that. I know
too close, you're saying?
Yes, okay. and there's other regions like the South who are still dying for a team, and other places, right? Because I mean, when the Warriors came back, like there was an Oakland, you know, there was an Oakland bid.
Yeah, there was an Oakland bid.
And remember, there used to be a team in Sacramento, right? And so, like, they're saying like these other ownership groups that have put in bids would still be under consideration. But I mean, just based on how they've moved so far and how they've approved things, I would be shocked at that. So I think there's going to be one New England team. I don't know where it would be, but I think there's going to be one.
I was just addressing what you said, and it made me think. But I think overall, like, where it probably should have started is just in how the Pagliuca group has handled themselves. First and foremost, I actually think they responded to that response from the WNBA, and I thought it was respectful.
Okay.
Because they came back and put a response out where they said, you know, while they want the team and feel that there's all the reasons why it should happen, including the big money they threw at the or threw at the Mohegan Sun tribe, they said they would respect and cooperate with the approvals and the process of the WNBA. And I think that's to note, because it may kind of seem like they tried to muscle their way with might and money to the front when many teams did put a bid in many cities, and there's already a process right now where the WNBA has one team at a time rollout schedule each year now until 2030. And they've got to be careful about, you know, maintaining the product, not diluting the talent pool, like all of these different things. And also, so just to put the numbers into perspective, a lot of these new teams that are coming in that have been approved are coming in at about a $250 million price point, and that includes the facilities that they're going to use.
Right.
According to reports, this Pagliuca deal, Pags is coming in $325 million, plus an additional, that's not even including the new practice facility or wherever, plus $100 million extra on that.
Yeah.
If you're the Mohegan tribe who bought this for $10 million in 2003, the pressure is, they feel the pressure of, let's get out on top right now.
Yes.
Because you don't know if waiting for all of these teams to roll out and for your chance, what if the market cools on the WNBA?
Right.
So there's different parties with different motivations. The Mohegan Sun is a tribe. They're not even a company, or they're not a business group, or they're not an NBA team. Like, $300 million could really change things.
325.
Let's not even take away the $25 million. Probably the generational investment that has ever happened. And they don't want to see that go down. But for the for people who are trying to pressure them and say also, like, what if the market cools? You'd like to believe that you have an ownership group coming in that wants to be part of this, whether the market is high in 2025 or in 2032 or 2033, you know, it's a different market. You need ownership groups with vision that is beyond the next 5-10 years, that they're buying here for a 20-30 year purchase. And I will say this about the Pagliuca group. They are a really elite, experienced group. I happen to know, like, you know, obviously they come from the Celtics franchise, helped them win they were part of the leadership that grew them into a championship in 2024. And we know that Kathy Engelbert is leaning towards those NBA trained type franchises because they have the muscle and the know-how. So I appreciated the respectful response for them, and we shall see.
We will see. This is the last thing I'll say,
Go ahead.
You know, I think that the optics would not look great if you try to force them to take a substantially lower bid to stay in Connecticut. Now, we don't know the numbers for the other bid, but this is a really big bid. Dejanay Carrington, when she was on the Sun, said, let's move to Boston. The players have expressed it now, the current players.
I don't think it's about not getting to Boston. It's just about when and process.
Right.
And you don't want to set a precedent that a billionaire could come in there and wag big money and skip the line and do anything.
But I don't, that's the thing. I feel like we're conflating expansion and relocation. This is not the first WNBA team that has been relocated. When teams have been purchased in the past, they are often relocated. That's actually happened a fair amount of times in the WNBA. So it's really not the same thing. Like, yes, it would be moving to a new city, but it's not a new team. You're not adding an additional team where you have to fill roster spots. You don't have to do an expansion draft. None of those things happen. You're relocating a team to a bigger market where it's easier for travel. Players have expressed support over it. Better facilities. If you're investing this kind of money, that suggests it's a long-term commitment with an ownership group that you already have familiarity with. And also, the year that he proposed was 2027, which is the one year there is not an expansion team coming. And also, in this reporting, it says that the WNBA would like to maybe have a team, you know, like 8 years down the road. That's a long time away. So yes, I get that it might change your timeline, but it also gives you the ability to look at other teams and grant them expansion franchises. And now you can still get a team in Boston if you truly are considering Boston and not have to go through expansion. So I get it that the WNBA may not like someone changing their plans, but now you have to worry about optics because that's a lot of money. Boston is one of the biggest markets. It's one of the biggest sports towns. And everyone right now is talking about invest in women. And here comes an ownership group trying to pour a lot into women. And so it's just going to be interesting to see it play out. Also, I think it's worth noting that like the board of governors is largely comprised of NBA owners. And so I'm sure he has relationships with these people already.
Right.
So it's going to be, you brought that up, so it's going to be interesting to see it play out. I am curious.
Yes. All I can say to that is touche. Those very interesting and good points to ponder and think upon. I'd honestly, given my very little experience in team ownership and buying properties, I'll have to just wait to see how this continues to develop. But everything you said versus what I said, I'm like, that's interesting.
No, like, I mean, the one thing I should just ask you though, what do you want to see the team stay in Connecticut? Like, in your opinion, do you think they should have a team in Connecticut and one in Boston, or would you like to see them make a move to Boston?
I think Boston is fertile grounds. The city is very hungry for it. There's city politicians campaigning for it. The players are. The governor. Yeah. They've had success there, you know, putting a women's game there. I think it would do very well. I'm not here to crap on Connecticut and say whether or not they shouldn't, but I'll say that I do think it would be very optimistic and beneficial to put a WNBA team in Boston.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. And yeah, to me, this isn't about like the great state of Connecticut where we are today, right? Like that's not what this is about. To me, I think about the travel for the players, and getting in and out of Boston is easier than getting in and out of Hartford. And I just think about that arena, TD Garden. It was 19,000, I think, plus fans that showed up to those games last year and this year. They filled the arena. They were so excited.
Were they both fever games?
No, only this year was a fever game.
Only this year. Okay.
Last year was not a fever game. Connecticut Sun played the Los Angeles Sparks last year, who were not even a very good team.
So the city's excited. And also when Aaliyah Boston came in, they honored her there with a Aaliyah Boston Day, just to further like show the WNBA, hey, to honor her, but also to show, like, I'm sure, like, there's a lot of warmth here for women's basketball.
Listen, there is excitement right now for women's basketball. Boston is a sports town that supports its city, its teams. So I think they're going to have excitement regardless of who is.
So you didn't like the response from the WNBA? You thought they could have held that and did that behind closed doors?
No, I didn't dislike it because, I mean, I get it. If I run a business and I have some plans and someone seems to be coming in just like altering my plans, I don't know that I'd like that. You know, that's just like, you know, the ego of me, right? And I don't know that it was ego. I don't, like, from a distance looking in, it sort of looked like a little bit of like a pissing match. But like you said,
I always ask who is delivering the message and why.
Right.
Why did we need to hear? I think, you know, another question to ask yourself as a reader and a viewer is, you know, why did they want this to get out there that the WNBA had to go and cool it down? Was it important that that this group, that we knew publicly that they were coming with this much of a big offer? That's public pressure. Now listen, look at us. We're sitting here going, WNBA, how could you not take $325 million plus another $100 million more?
Right.
So even though the deal was not done and the story seems a little bit premature, the information getting out is a useful tool and strategy that I think, you know, probably favors the Pagliuca group, not to insinuate anything there.
Of course, yes. And I mean, like,
it's interesting.
We knew that they had hired a firm to help with this. So the fact that they accepted an offer to me is newsworthy, right? Yeah. And so this is all good stuff.
It's all good stuff.
It's all good stuff.
I know the Mohegan Sun, the Mohegan tribe is over there, and they're like, please.
Yes.
Let us take this money.
For sure. And they put out a statement, too, saying, like, we're going to cooperate with everything. So everyone's saying they're cooperating and
that's good.
Everything. So time will tell. Listen, we will be monitoring this closely, so make sure.
And either way, I do want to shout out Mohegan, like that group, the tribe. They have been early investors in the W and did well by this franchise. If they end up exiting, salute to them.
For sure. So make sure you guys invest in women's sports like they did, like the Boston group is trying to, like Roz and I do, all right? and tune in. You know how you show your investment? Subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Subscribe.
WNBA on NBC. Thanks, y'all.